ask yourself, is that really what you want to do? Or is that just what you feel like you're supposed to do? You want to know why I decided not to retire? Because I decided I don't like the word. I don't like how it made me feel. And I think words matter. So here's what I did instead. First, let me ask you a question. When you hear the word retire, what comes to mind? What do you picture people who are retiring doing? What does it make you feel? What are some of the words that you would use to describe somebody who's retired? I'll give you a minute. Drop me some notes in the comments below and let's see what everybody thinks. For me, when I used to hear the word retired or retirement, I would think about people who are stopping, people who have been active all their lives in their careers, and it's coming to an end. It's disengaging, being done. It also brings to mind somebody who is pursuing only leisure activities, golf, tennis, bridge, going on a cruise, laying by the pool. All sound like really lovely things, but that was all I used to think retirement was, just stopping and doing those things instead. So when I left my career of 30 plus years, I had to really redefine what the next part of my life was going to mean for me. I had to redefine how I saw myself. Let me give you some context. When I was 52, my husband and I got rid of most of our belongings, sold them, gave them away, put a few things in storage, and we set off to redefine what our day-to-day lives were going to look like. At the time, we called it retirement. Didn't have any other words for it. But the more I said it, and the more I heard my husband say it, it just didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel accurate at all. In fact, it felt kind of awkward. And because I really do believe that words matter, I started struggling to come up with some other way to describe what we were doing every day. And I certainly didn't envision the rest of our lives to fall in line with the typical definition of retirement. Now, let me clarify, we absolutely needed time to unwind. We needed time to rest. We needed time to breathe. You don't shake off the stress and energy of a 30-year career living in Silicon Valley with all the commuting and the job stress and everything. You don't shake that off within the matter of a couple of weeks. And so after the first few weeks, I figured, okay, that's it. We did that. We're relaxed, right? It was like a typical vacation time. Now what do we do? And then as time went on, I began to realize, no, we had only just begun the recovery period. The real unwinding took longer than I thought. And so there was a period of several months where we did really start to come down notch by notch and began to breathe again. So yes, there really was a longer period of time that we needed to bounce back, to recover, to heal, and to get our energy back. So here's a pro tip. Don't skip this step. Allow yourself the time and space to do it. And I knew that this phase was coming to a close when I was really able to sit back and ask myself, okay, what do I really want? What's next? What are the possibilities? And since then, we've been on a constant journey of plot twists, and none of which has felt like stopping or slowing down. Instead, our lives began to fill up with opportunities, challenges, new interests, switching gears, showing up, learning, and the icing on the cake, a couple of new grandbabies. So let me pause for clarification here. What I'm trying to say doesn't mean that if what you envision for retirement, what you really want out of the next phase of your life is to do nothing but leisure activities and travel and slow down and just be. That's not wrong. That's not wrong at all. If it's really what you want, you know what? You should do that. You should do whatever the fuck makes you happy. I'm not judging at all. What I am doing is asking you to ask yourself, is that really what you want to do? Or is that just what you feel like you're supposed to do? That's what my parents did. That's what my grandparents did. That's what, when you Google retirement, this is what it looks like. Be purposeful about it. Be clear with yourself about it. Give yourself time to think about it and dream and wonder. And whatever you land on, first of all, is absolutely okay. And second of all, it doesn't have to be forever. It's not a forever decision. You can start off down one path and see where it leads you. You might decide to go back to work. That's amazing. You might start a whole second career. That's even more amazing. But whatever you do, thinking about it instead of just assuming what you're supposed to do. I simply want you to think about it and not make big decisions based on what you're assuming you're supposed to do. Also, if you feel like for some reason you need permission to do something different than the traditional post-career retirement lifestyle, if you feel like you need a little bit of permission to do it, here it is. Or maybe you've thought, I am never going to retire. I can't even imagine how boring that would be. Honestly, I get that question a lot. Aren't you bored? But if you've made the decision not to ever retire because you're afraid of boredom, I challenge you to rethink that. I challenge you to imagine your midlife and post-career life as the most dynamic, fulfilling, and adventureful era of your life yet. I challenge you to transform your idea of retirement from a slow winding down to a fabulous new beginning. Let's talk about these post-career years as full of abundance and transformation. And I think there are about 4 different things you can do to really set yourself up for success here. The first, and maybe the most important, is to embrace a growth mindset. What does that mean? It means being curious. It means believing in possibilities. It means giving yourself the permission and the space to learn and grow and evolve over time. And this might look like doing small things from picking up a new hobby or reigniting an old hobby to going back to school, or maybe starting a small business, or maybe pursuing a new career altogether. Open your mind and your heart to the possibilities and continue every day to grow and learn. And in fact, learning new things is critical to your brain health as well. So it's especially important if you're stopping your career where you're used to getting all kinds of mental stimulation and learning new things on a daily basis and having to be mentally agile on a daily basis. It's even more important in this phase of your life to do things like learning a new language, learn how to salsa dance, learn how to make salsa, learn new tech tools, learn how to, for instance, learn how to record, edit, and upload onto YouTube. The next thing you can do is to actively cultivate your connections. Humans are naturally social creatures, and building and maintaining strong relationships is crucial to longevity and happiness. You might have heard of the Blue Zone designation for some areas in the world where people are living extraordinarily longer than in most other places in the world. And one of the key pieces that are common in all of these blue zones are people having a sense of community and deep connection to family. And when we leave our jobs, you tend to lose some of that natural day-to-day interaction. I know personally, I really miss going into the office and or being on a Zoom call with people that I work with on a regular basis. Now, I'm an introvert and sometimes that gets very overwhelming, but when you're completely cut off from that, when you're used to having it on a day-to-day basis, and then that just stops, that can feel very isolating. It's not good for your mental health. And you all of a sudden have to be very proactive in making sure you get that interaction. And it becomes even more important to purposefully seek out those interactions, whether it's rekindling former relationships or continuing the ones that you have or seeking new friendships. It's a really, really worthwhile activity. And if you're not sure really how to go about rekindling those old relationships and reigniting your network, or even in making new friendships, I have a resource that I'm going to put a link in the description as well. It's called The Inner Circle Effect, and it's written by a former colleague of mine, Thomas Kreese, who is really an expert in the area of social, not just social networking, but networking and connections in particular. And he gives you specific action steps on how to nurture and build your connections. I highly recommend it. I'll put a link in the description. The next aspect of post-career life that's really important is to get a handle on your money situation. They say money can't buy happiness, and I believe that to some extent, but I tell you what, it sure makes everything easier, doesn't it? And what it does do is afford you choices. Maybe what you really want to do is go back to school or start a new business or travel extensively. All of those things take money, so you need to get a handle on what your resources are, what your dreams are, and how to get from here to there if you're not already there. It may involve some lifestyle choices. It may involve having additional streams of income. Whatever it is, make sure you deal with it. The sooner the better, because your choices might be limited to your financial constraints. But if you can avoid that, and if you can do what you really want to do because you did a little bit of planning ahead of time, do that. Okay, so the fourth and last thing I want to talk to you about today is pursuing your passion projects. If you haven't already started pursuing your passion projects, whether that's writing a book or starting your own nonprofit or learning how to play an instrument, now's the time to do it. And these projects aren't just about filling your time so that you won't be bored. They're about creating purpose and accomplishment and identity for yourself. And these are so important that I'm going to do a whole other video on them, because not paying attention to these things can really leave you feeling with a sense of being upended or untethered. It really is important to have these things in your life so that you don't feel so discombobulated. Having a sense of value and purpose and identity is important no matter what you're doing in your life. And when you let go of how you used to get all of those things, you need to find some other way to do it. Redefining your post-career life as the most vibrant and exciting era in your life is a labor of love. Embrace a growth mindset. Cultivate your connections. Plan your money. And pursue your passion projects. All of those things are going to bring you so much joy in a time in your life that might otherwise feel a little bit scary or boring. And your outcomes are going to be very different from mine, and they're going to be very different from anybody else's. And that's the beauty of life. We all get to create the kind of life that we want to live. So get out there and do it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next time.